She heard voices commanding her to lead an army. In 1431, in a market square in Rouen, an executioner watched a teenage girl burn, and, according to later testimony, said he feared he had killed a saint. She was not a queen, not a noble, not a trained soldier. She was a farmer's daughter who said God spoke to her. Her name was Joan, born around 1412 in Domremy, a small farming village on the eastern edge of France. France was bleeding. For nearly a century, it had been locked in the brutal Hundred Years' War with England. In 1420, the Treaty of Troyes had done the unthinkable. It disinherited the French heir and promised the crown to England's king. The young Dauphin, Charles, was left uncrowned and doubted, some questioned whether he was even the true king. By 1428, English armies pushed deep into France and laid siege to Orléans, a city guarding the road to the south. Far from the war, Joan grew up in a farming family and was known in her village for her piety. Then, around the age of 13, she said something extraordinary began to happen. She started to hear voices. She believed the voices belonged to Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret, sent from God with a mission. The message, she said, was clear and impossible: drive the English out and bring the Dauphin to be crowned king. Her family, it is said, was strongly opposed. According to later testimony, her father swore he would rather drown her than let her run off with soldiers. Still, in 1428 Joan traveled to nearby Vaucouleurs to see the garrison captain, Robert de Baudricourt. She asked him for an armed escort to the Dauphin. Baudricourt reportedly brushed her off and told her to go home. But she came back, and back again. Her steady certainty, it is said, slowly wore down the men who had mocked her. To cross enemy-held land safely, she cut her hair short and dressed as a man, a choice that would later haunt her. In early 1429, Baudricourt finally relented. With a small band of companions, Joan rode across dangerous territory to reach the Dauphin. She arrived at the castle of Chinon, seeking an audience with a prince who had every reason to distrust a peasant girl. According to later accounts, Charles hid among his courtiers to test her, yet Joan is said to have picked him out at once. They spoke privately. Whatever she told him, Charles emerged convinced enough to take her seriously. Still cautious, he sent her to Poitiers, where learned theologians questioned her for weeks about her faith and her voices. They found nothing heretical in her. Short of options, Charles decided to gamble on the girl. He gave her armor, a household, and a place with the army marching to relieve besieged Orléans. She carried a white banner painted with images of God and angels. She said she loved the banner far more than her sword. Orléans had held out since October 1428, ringed by English forts and slowly being starved into surrender. In late April 1429, Joan entered the city. According to accounts, crowds pressed close just to touch her, treating her as a sign from heaven. Her arrival changed the mood. According to accounts, exhausted, defeated soldiers began to believe they could win. Working alongside Commander Jean de Dunois, she urged bold, immediate assaults on the English strongholds. During the fighting she was struck by an arrow between neck and shoulder, yet she returned to the field. On May 8, 1429, after months of siege, the English abandoned their forts and withdrew. Orléans was free. News of the relief of Orléans spread across Europe. People began calling her the Maid of Orléans. She pressed the advantage, sweeping through English-held towns along the Loire River one after another. On June 18, 1429, the French caught the English in open ground near Patay. The result was a rout. English losses were heavy, and their reputation for invincibility was shaken. Now Joan pushed her greatest goal, to march deep into enemy territory to the cathedral city of Reims. There, on July 17, 1429, the Dauphin was crowned King Charles VII of France. Reims was the traditional coronation city. Anointed there, Charles could now claim to be the true, sacred king. Joan stood near him with her banner. In barely a few months, an unknown farm girl had helped crown a king. But here's what no one expected: her momentum was about to stall. In September 1429 she attacked Paris. The assault failed. Joan was wounded again, this time by a crossbow bolt through the leg, and had to be pulled back. King Charles, cautious and short of money, grew reluctant to keep fighting. Joan's boldness no longer suited his politics. Through the winter she was held back by truces and delays. Records suggest she believed the war should not be paused. In May 1430, she rode to defend the town of Compiègne, which was under attack. During a sortie she was pulled from her horse and captured by soldiers allied with the Burgundians, France's enemies. The Burgundians sold her to the English for a large sum of money. To them, she was a prize worth destroying. And King Charles, the man she had crowned, made no known effort to ransom or rescue her. In 1431 she was put on trial for heresy at Rouen, in territory controlled by the English. The trial was led by Bishop Pierre Cauchon, a churchman firmly loyal to the English cause. The charges centered on heresy and defying the church, pointing especially to her wearing of men's clothing. Yet the uneducated girl answered with startling wit. Asked if she was in God's grace, she reportedly said, "If I am not, may God put me there, and if I am, may God keep me." She faced the court alone, without a lawyer, questioned for days by dozens of trained clergymen. Threatened with torture and shown the fire that awaited her, she was, records describe, worn down by fear and exhaustion. At last she signed a document recanting and agreed to wear women's clothes, and her death sentence was lifted. But days later she put on men's clothing once more. She said her voices had returned and that her recantation had been a betrayal of them. To the court this was proof she had relapsed. She was condemned as a heretic and handed to the executioner. On May 30, 1431, she was led into the market square of Rouen and bound to a tall wooden stake. Witnesses said she asked for a cross to be held before her and cried out the name of Jesus as the flames rose. It is said even some of the English present wept, and the executioner feared he had burned a holy woman. Afterward her ashes were gathered and thrown into the Seine, so that no relics or grave would remain. She was roughly 19 years old. But her death did not end the war she had reshaped. France fought on, and by 1453 the English were finally driven out. In 1456, a new investigation reviewed her trial and declared it corrupt and unjust. Joan was pronounced innocent. Centuries later, in 1920, the Catholic Church went further still and canonized her as a saint. But one question still divides historians. What were the voices she heard, divine visions, or something we may never explain? Next time, we uncover another figure history couldn't forget. Subscribe to World History Tales so you never miss the story.